And welcome to the Black Wednesday edition of And They're Off. We're happy you've taken some time off from buying on-sale electronics to spend a few holiday minutes with us. Steve Haskin, I had no idea how much influence you wield in the horse business. I mean, I knew you were a powerful guy, but in our last show you railed about how the Hopeful Stakes needed to be upgraded back to Grade 1 status. And last week, the American Graded Stakes Committee, quaking in fear from your wrath, gave the Hopeful back its Grade 1. Steve, what's your next project?
Oh, what power, what power. My next project is to get my 25-year-old car to start in the morning. That's my next project.
World domination.
Yeah, so if you're referring to racing, I'm done with projects. That was my project of the year. But I have to say that I'm just glad that the Graded Stakes Committee rectified their mistake. Now, I'm not saying it was because of me. I'm sure they came to their own common sense and decided to take proper action and undo what was done prematurely. Also, I got to give them credit for finally upgrading the Delaware Handicap to Grade 1. That's something that's been long overdue and well deserved. So all in all, I have to say, unlike most years, I can't take issue with any of the moves they made this year. All the other upgrades and downgrades, you know, you might quibble on a few things here and there, but all in all, they got the two big ones right.
Yeah. Well, I hated to see the Bobby Frankel get downgraded, but I have no idea about the strength of the race. I don't want to see the name get downgraded, but look, I don't think it was a mistake. I'm a fan of the Graded Stakes Committee. They do not make arbitrary decisions. This is a statistical analysis of what all the horses in a race accomplished before, during, and after the race in question. And the truth is, there are several runnings of the Hopeful that stunk. It's a great historic race, no question about it. The problem is that 2-year-olds don't run 8 times or 10 times as 2-year-olds anymore. They run twice or 3 times for the whole year, and there's a glut of graded stakes, you know, in the late summer and early fall, and the horses just aren't around to run in all of them anymore. So, you know, you get short and substandard fields. But anyway, I'm glad you're happy again, Steve.
I am happy, but I'll tell you, I understand your point too, but you know, when you shortchange history, it has a tendency to come back and bite you in the you-know-where.
Well,
so you just have to be careful when you take such historic races as the Hopeful, and you know, dare I say the Suburban Handicap too, which has been a good race every year, and that deserves to be Grade 1. I don't know why that's still Grade 2, but that's for another time.
Well, listen, Steve, let's not overblow it. I mean, the Hopeful was very lucky that Paul Redham sent I'll Have Another out there last year to run, you know, 6th on a sloppy track and have him come back and win 3 Grade 1s, which is why the Hopeful got upgraded again. So it's little twist of irony there, I think, but
well, like you said, the timing is different. The 2-year-olds that run in the Hopeful in recent years, they're not as advanced as the horses that ran in the Hopeful in years past.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's just 2-year-old racing these days. But all right, everybody's happy. Very good. Let's move on. Let's make some trouble. In an effort to, that's all that counts, in an effort to attract the Breeders' Cup to Florida once again, Frank Stronach's Gulfstream Park is building 2 sections of grandstand and 2 hotels that it says will add 52,000 seats. 52,000 seats to the facility. I want you to look behind me. Here is a picture of Yankee Stadium, which seats 51,000 people. This is what 51,000 seats look like. 2 sections of grandstand at Gulfstream are not going to add up to this. So I'm wondering, Steve, whether Gulfstream is counting chairs in the simulcast center, in the casino, maybe the benches in the try-on rooms in the clothing stores in the parking lot, you know, chairs at the poker table. And I still don't know how they're getting to 52,000. Steve, you want to do the math on that?
Well, are you sure he didn't say 5,200? I still want to see documented proof that he actually, in all seriousness, said 52,000 people to be seated. I mean, it's just...
well, 5,200 ain't going to get the Breeders' Cup there, so
no,
I'm guessing it was 1,000.
Well, maybe he's just saying it. Let me ask you a question. Did he make this statement on April 1st by any chance?
I don't think it was Frank. I think it was perhaps Mr. Ritvo or somebody at Gulfstream Park. I believe it was Tim Ritvo.
I appreciate the statement he made in the ultimate concern of getting the Breeders' Cup. However, where are you going to put 52,000 seats? Where are you going to put 52,000 people? And are you going to do that just for the Breeders' Cup?
These are going to be permanent grandstand seats. Now, in addition, I'm guessing they are going to put those temporary seats like we saw at Arlington and Lone Star. But no, they are actually building permanent sections of grandstand there. So, but
I don't get it.
I don't either. You ain't getting to 52 with 2 sections of a grandstand. But I don't know.
Considering the fact that considering that right now they have seating for 500.
I know. People are saying, well, they got seating for 5, 10, that. No. There's like 400 seats in a restaurant there. And then, you know, you want to count the seats around the paddock. Okay, there's probably a couple of grand there. Hey, maybe we can have Tim Ritvo, the president of Gulfstream, come on with us and explain this whole deal to us. And we'll see what Gulfstream's up to with all of this. So we'll try to get Tim on, and we'll get back to you and follow up with this story, okay? It is December, folks, which means we are just 5 months away from the Kentucky Derby. It also means Steve has come out of his post-Breeders' Cup hibernation, and he has prepared for us a list of 2-year-olds to watch out for as they turn 3 on New Year's Day, with the Derby looming in the distance. Steve, who is looming for the Derby at this early juncture?
Okay, here goes the first top 20 list
top 20
of the season.
Wow.
Top 20 list of the season.
Casey.
Little drum roll, please. Number 20, Little Jerry. This is a son of Candy Ride, who won his only start going 1 mile and 1/16 at Hollywood Park. Number 19, General Election. He won his only start at Churchill Downs going 7 furlongs. Number 18, first of several Bob Baffert horses, Super 99. He's not really bred for 1 1/4 miles, but he did run a strong second in a Hollywood Preview Stakes. Number 17, here's a horse to watch, Dynamic Sky. Even though he finished, I believe it was 6th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he's only beaten 5 1/4 lengths. He had a very rough trip. Number 16, Little Distorted. I'm surprised no one's bought this horse. He was very impressive, breaking his maiden at Belmont in 109.3. Strong pedigree, and his owner and trainer are the same people who sold Game on Dude to Baffert and his group. Number 15, Gulfport. Dale Romans, $775,000 yearling. He won his last 2 at Churchill Downs very impressively. Number 14, Fortify. This is a Karen McLaughlin horse. Should get better with maturity. Ran well, finished 2nd in the Hopeful, 3rd in the Champagne, 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Number 13, Delhomme. Set all the pace in the Remsen Stakes, hung on, ran a good 3rd for Pletcher. Number 12, Frac Daddy. Can't fault him after his gutsy 2nd in the Kentucky Jockey Club. He should keep on improving. Number 11, Shaking It Up. Watch out for this horse, another Baffert horse, closing fastest of all to finish 3rd in the Hollywood Preview Stakes. Talk about a horse made for Baffert. He's by Midnight Loot. His broodmare sire is Vindication. His second dam is Silver Bullet Day. I like this horse. Number 10, Capo Beston, close from far back to finish 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile against a severe speed bias. He's been turned over to Pletcher. Number 9, Golden Sense, ran huge in the Champagne off a 5.5 furlong maiden race. Came back and wired his field in the Delta Jackpot. Tons of ability. Number 8, Burn Identity, stakes winner at Saratoga. Tough and consistent, ran a big race to finish 2nd in the Delta Jackpot. Number 7, Dewey Square, another Dale Romans colt, his son of Bernardini. He overanalyzed. very game winner of the Remsen, and was impressive winning the Futurity at Belmont, but he was beaten 8 lengths by Uncaptured in the Iroquois. Number 5 is Uncaptured. He's run 7 times already. He's a real throwback from Mark Cassie and John Oxley. Battled back gamely to win the Kentucky Jockey Club after winning the Iroquois, and he loves Churchill Downs. He's by Lionheart, so got to watch him on as far as distance. Number 4, surprisingly, Shanghai Bobby. Yes, hopeful Champagne Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Can't ask for anything better than that. However, there is a little bit of question about his pedigree. He can beat you by open lengths. He can show his gameness. Very, very, obviously, the top class horse in the country, the most accomplished horse, but again, we have to see how far he wants to go. Number 3, Power Broker. Finished 5th in the Breeders' Cup, had a horrible trip. 6 wide on both turns. Made a big move to get to contention. Couldn't sustain it. Bad trip. Throw the race out. This is a very good horse. Won the front runner easily. Number 2, speaking of Paul Redham, he's had enough. Many felt he was the best horse in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Had a nightmare trip. Was beaten in nose. Just caught the wrong end of the head bob. This horse is bred to go on. And number 1, Normandy Invasion, trained by Chad Brown. He's a son of Tappet, as is, he's had enough. Brilliant breaking his maidens. Turned in a spectacular run on the turn in the Remsen to be beaten in nose after breaking from the 10 post. A little bit of a question about the pedigree, but he sure looked good going a mile and 1/8. I really like everything I've seen about this horse. There are your top 20.
That's our buddy Rick Porter, is it not?
That is correct.
Well, Steve, let me ask you something. What are the chances the Derby winner has been mentioned by you?
Very few, very small.
All right, there you go for you futures players. Very good. Hit none of the above. Very, very comprehensive, Steve. Way to go.
Thank you.
All right. Steve, you may not know this, but I once considered a career in law. I took law classes in college, but I couldn't understand why judicial rulings often seem to be arbitrary rather than following actual legal precedent. Which brings me to the Kentucky judge who just upheld a state regulation that an owner who claims a horse in Kentucky can't run that horse anywhere except at the track where he claimed it for the duration of that track's meeting. Jerry Jamgochian claimed a horse at Churchill last year, tried to run it in Pennsylvania, was told he couldn't, so he sued, mistakenly believing that since he owned the horse, he could race it where he wanted to, under the Interstate Commerce Clause. California had the same regulation until Jerry challenged it, and the Attorney General decided he couldn't enforce the rule. But not so in Kentucky, where a judge actually said that if the time frame for not being able to run the horse back was a year instead of 3 months, Jerry would have had a better case. You know, a regulation is either constitutional or it isn't constitutional. It doesn't matter if it's 1 day or 10 years. The jokers that make and enforce regulations and law in this country are absolutely frightening to me. Steve, are you frightened?
Listen, I'm much more fascinated by you wanting to become a lawyer than I am about another Jerry Jamgochian case.
I object to that.
Just think you could have gone from Dice Clay to Henry Clay.
Oh, that's very good. Instead, I went to Catesby Clay instead.
I'm shocked. I mean, I can't even picture it. But look, I'm not familiar with the case, and certainly not as much as you are. It just seems to me that when you mention the term Kentucky judge, it sounds to me like an oxymoron.
I think I may have voted for this guy. That's what scares me. I'll have to go back and check. All right, Stable Boy is off at some veterinarian convention in California. Hopefully they're not using him in a lab experiment. He should be back. The X-Man, Big Adam on the board, doing a great job with us today. We want to thank our viewers. We want to thank our sponsor, Darby Dan Farm, which will be standing Clark Handicap winner Shackelford beginning in February. We remind you that our next show is December 19th, which will be our 4th annual. Steve, I've actually stopped keeping track, but I'm guessing it's our 4th annual.
Sounds good.
Offie Award show, it's something like that. You don't want to miss that one. We'll go back on a lot of highlights from over the year. Until then, Steve, we'll see you in the Santa hat.
Yeah, right. I got to go dig that out. Take care, everyone.
Me too. Take care. Bye-bye. Good song for a drummer.